what's fascinating now, and what I think sort of broke open in the Sidney Powell accusations about Georgia was the tension that exists here. Early on, we heard reporting that Mitch McConnell and the Republican caucus felt that maintaining Trump's engagement and this type of sense that it was stolen from Donald Trump would help in Georgia. And I think to a certain extent, there was also Mitch McConnell was thinking like, well, we've got to line up behind Trump so that Trump will come in and help us in Georgia because the control of the Senate is in balance. I don't think that we're going to have it, even if the Democrats win. I don't think it's going to be a boon for progressives, but it's going to be at least an ability to do some of the basic functioning of our government. And Powell sort of really highlighted the conflict that exists, right? Because if you're going to say Georgia was stolen, well, it was stolen by Republican lawmakers and, Republican officials. And they're also holding this vote here. And they also held the vote that made Kelly Loeffler win over Doug Collins, who was the favored Trump candidate. And this all starts. And then the other sort of like contradiction is, well, what happens when they give up the ghost that, in fact, Trump did not win the election? He did not win Georgia. That necessarily has to happen weeks before the special election. And on some level, we're watching this problem like rear its head. Here's clip number 13. And this is from Dave and World 2, I guess, on Twitter. And it is footage from a rally in Georgia that I don't know, raises the problem that you're going to have in terms of Republican support for Loeffler and Perdue. And we should, I should say, like, it's going to be an uphill battle. It's Democrats don't do well in these situations traditionally, but who knows?
And if Republican traitors like Kemp are not willing to show up for us, and Mitt Romney, and the rest of them, then we will not be willing to show up for them. Brian Kemp is a traitor.
Where's Governor Abrams?
Brad Raffensperger is a traitor. Any Republican that allows this to happen is complicit, and we will finish you.
Enemy! Death to tyrants.
Do they think that we're just going to go away?
No! Stop the steal!
For any Republicans not explicitly helping Trump to stop this deal, we will make sure you are never elected ever again.
I mean, honestly, like, my first inclination is like, are these Democratic operatives?
Yeah.
like
arrest Biden, traitors.
I mean, I just honestly, like, I'm like, if Project Lincoln was actually going to be effective, what they would be doing is financing these type of rallies, right? Where they would send down people and like, you guys are Republicans now, and here's what you're going to do. You're going to say, we're not going to participate in this because, I mean, I don't know if it's going to make a difference, but I can't imagine if you are a Democratic operative in Georgia that this isn't like giving you some measure of hope. I mean, this is what you want to do. You want you want the Republican coalition to be, or to the extent it's a coalition, you want the Republicans to be divided. You want them to have some, ambivalence about going out and voting in a special election.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I'm a bit more pessimistic about that prospect just because Loeffler and Perdue have both called for a recount of Georgia, have both been very deliberate in the fact that they're trying to stay on Trump's good side. And really, when it comes to just raw emotion and anger for the Republican base, it's not that complicated. It's going to be more straightforward in the fact that they want to just basically stick it to socialist Biden. I think what it really is going to come back to is the Democrats stole the election, they're going to say, how are you going to fight back against the Democrats?
Right.
And it will always return to voting for the Republican. So while I feel this is amusing, I don't know if it has a longer lasting effect in terms of, might just be marginal in terms of who turns out for Loeffler and Perdue, but that could be enough. We don't know. I just do think that eventually they'll return back to anger at Democrats, anger at socialists, a death to Biden, whatever they want to say.
Yeah, I think that's the safe bet. I do think that's the safe bet, but it is an interesting sort of a twist here where, in this year, who knows? Everything is sort of is extremely hard to predict. It is hard to assess whether, the Trump people want to distance themselves from Powell, and presumably it's because they're getting pressure from other Republicans, and maybe Rudy Giuliani is getting pressure from other Republicans, but she doesn't have to stop going on World Net Daily or OWN or One America, whatever these. I mean, she doesn't have to stop. And it's going to be interesting to see if she continues to get play in that sort of semi-subterranean Republican news or media world. Because if she does, she doesn't care about those two runoffs. She cares about what's happening with her Q-inspired.
Yeah, Hugo Chavez taking over the United States. I mean,
that's no joke, people in Georgia. I mean, if you want to keep Hugo Chavez out of your state, you should probably just.
If you don't want Hugo Chavez appointed as Biden's Secretary of Labor, you better vote. You better vote so they can block this.